And we kind of talked about the protests and things like that, which has had me thinking a lot about just like my positionality and all of it, and like especially like my photography. So I know I talked to you all about like talking about avoiding the Karens of the world. Joshua hit me with a video earlier today. It was like it's not only the Karens, but it's the Bobs and the Roberts and the Richards as well. But I do have a question about like, you know, being out, especially for people who do street photography or photography of people like you know, in their natural habitats. Like it requires you to be out in spaces. And right now, it's tough for Black people to be out in spaces. So I guess how do you, when you're out shooting in public and things like that, how are you thinking about your positionality and your just your person in doing so? Like how do you avoid the Karens? Do you avoid the Karens? Like what's the, how do you do it? Do you do it? Or what are you thinking about?
Um, Again, because most of my subjects are Black, I'm 9 times out of 10 in a Black enough space where whatever I might be facing isn't that. Um, yes, I mean I've done some street photography where people are like, "Wait, are you taking pictures?" You kind of, you develop the kind of whole look away where it's like, I really didn't like, oh, I wasn't looking at you, but you got your shot that you've gotten already the person as they walk by or something like that. Um, so I personally haven't run into that, but I will admit, um, there have been some moments in which I think I wanted to like have taken my camera and I've thought twice about it just because I just knew I was going to be out in a public space and I kind of just didn't want to potentially deal with maybe something like that. That being said, like I was I was able to take shots like at the North Carolina State Fair, and at least the day that I went, I was the only one that was there. Like I didn't see anybody else with the camera. I was like, do I have to sneak this in? Is this allowed or something like that? And because they were close enough, like I said, when I went down to the Marine Lab, there was a North Carolina Seafood Festival that's in Morehead. It's in Morehead City, and it is basically State Fair. Just on a smaller scale. And I had my camera out, and because teenagers in high school were like, "Oh, you got a camera? Take my shot," and I was, I think it was at least 3 or 4 people who were like, "Oh, you can send it to me too." Like they immediately followed me on Instagram. As soon as I got them, edited enough, I sent them to them like, "Oh my God," back to that. "Oh my God, thank you. These are really good. I really appreciate these." So I personally have not, ran into the Karens of the world and or the Roberts or the Bobbies or the Jim Bobs or the Dicks. And I'm specifically thinking of, because the clip I sent to Corey earlier today was specifically of a Black photographer and a run-in with police, asking him, well, why are you here taking pictures? So I haven't run into that, but yes, I mean, I live in Briar Creek, and there's a gazebo, like about Susan Briar Creek Country Club is actually like within kind of the subdivision, and there's a gazebo, and I've always wanted to like go there and take somebody out there because I know it'll be some good shots, but like, I mean, I see Black people in my neighborhood, but I don't see a whole lot, and I've always just, and it's just especially now in the back of my head, it's just like, is it even worth it? And I do mean that. Is it really worth it for me to, maybe go into a neighborhood that I've lived in for 6 years, if I want to go take some shots, in the gazebo, by a small little pond or something like that. And for me, the answer has kind of been no. It's actually not worth it for me. So I kind of just stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to.
Okay, TLC. Hey.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a balance. Sometimes it depends on the mood, honestly. I mean, some places like, you pull up in Duke Gardens, just make sure you don't have a flash, like external flash, or else somebody gonna come ask you for your papers,
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and so I think it does affect my guerrilla photography, if you will. not so much like when I'm doing a shoot. Usually it's like, oh, obviously there's like a, it's a shoot. You got a stand and those are some of the things that I don't worry about as much when I'm doing like a more formal thing. And usually I try to make sure if I'm going to any kind of private establishment, I'll try to make sure I get at least a verbal, from somebody. But on the other hand, a lot of times I don't know, man. It's a balance between wanting to protect yourself, but also not wanting to live in fear. And so, like, depending on the day, it depends on how much I give a fuck.
Yeah.
It will determine how bold I am to, go and shoot wherever I want to shoot, or do art where I want to do art. Because some of the street art, might not be legal.
I mean,
and so there's like degrees to which like where do you find, like, so I photographed some illegal street art, like like or banner drops and things like that, and so that's a different way too. That's kind of like an imitation. I'm not doing it, but I'm photographing it.
Photograph.
And we were at the planning meeting, so it's like
So it was like you were part of the illegal stuff.
Where do you fall on that spectrum of like you're in the right versus wrong, and depending on what the issue is or what's going on or what I'm photographing for, and how I feel that day will determine how much I GAF.